Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You're good?
All good, all good. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
It's great to speak to you, man. Uh, I'm only a journalist of 5 years now, and I just remember growing up watching you guys on the TV, so it's surreal for me sometimes. But
Nice.
thank you for taking out some time to speak to me. Um,
Not a problem.
so we can just jump straight into it, if you don't mind. With Bafana Bafana's World Cup qualifiers coming up. I thought we just have a small chat about it. Um, and like now the nation is wondering with other national teams, like the Springboks and the Proteas doing so well, even with Banyana actually like breaking boundaries in the last 2 years. Um, we're not too sure what we're going to get from Bafana when they step onto the pitch generally. What do you think they can take from other national teams as they begin their World Cup journey?
Yeah, look, for me, I think it's I mean, the boys should be aware that Banyana have done well. The Springbok have done well. The Proteas right now, actually, they've just reached the semifinals. So it's supposed to be a motivation, um, in a way. But all I can say is that the fact that the boys have qualified for Africa Cup of Nations next year and they haven't lost the past 5 games. They conceded 2 goals the past 5 games. They have beat, I mean, Morocco that has been previously in the in the World Cup. I strongly believe that they have turned the corner. You know, um, but obviously next year going to Africa Cup of Nations um, and doing well in that Cup of Nations. That it's the aim. But for me, having watched them playing, I strongly believe that at the moment the team that Hugo Bros have assembled, the style the boys are playing, there's a lot of belief from myself. I believe that they will go out there and do well for the country.
It's good to hear. I think I was also at the Morocco game, and it was a really interesting watch because they outplayed Morocco. So it was nice to see that. But going into these first two qualifiers, how do you see them? How do you see the games against Benin and Rwanda going?
I mean, the first game against Benin, yes, World Cup qualifier, both games. Benin, um, we play in Benin in Durban on Saturday, which is a home game, and the next game against Rwanda will be away in Rwanda. Um, for me, really, I still I still say the fact that we have beat you know two good I would say the giants of African football, Ivory Coast and Morocco in the practice matches. Um, I think we absolutely have to beat Benin. We have to beat Rwanda. It's a tight group that we in. Um, Benin, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Nigeria. For me, the only tough probably game it has to be Nigeria as usual. Otherwise, I'm not expecting any problems against this other. In due respect, I'm not expecting any problems for South Africa playing against these other countries.
And Zimbabwe, Lesotho, and Nigeria make up the rest of the group. Uh, where do you see the toughest challenge coming? I mean, the obvious answer would probably be Nigeria, but I mean, Zimbabwe also with the amount of players they have playing in South Africa, do you think they pose a threat to us as well?
Yeah, I mean you're right. Most of probably. Talking about Zimbabwe, most of the players that are playing for Zimbabwe, they're playing in South Africa. But remember, in South African national team, we have players who are playing abroad. That for me, it's an upper hand. Yes, Nigeria. It's always been from way back, it's always been a tough contenders uh, against South Africa. But in recent games, we've been absolutely doing well against Nigeria. The away games against Nigeria, those have always been difficult games. But it's going to be an interesting one. That one. Um, Reason being, Nigerian national team, probably the rest of the squad, they playing abroad. Great experience on their side. That actually is going to be absolutely a difficult one. But we need to. It's all about the points. It's all about picking up the points in this in this journey that they will be obviously taking part on. Um, the quicker they collect points, the better. More especially before they go to play Nigeria.
And then, like we mentioned that Morocco game again. I said I was there. For me, like Bafana Bafana standout player most of the time is Basitao. And I noticed that night, whenever the ball goes out to the right, he's got the crowd on their feet, and he's mixing it up on that wing, going on the inside, going on the outside, and he's really creating for the team. And how important do you think he's going to be for these qualifiers?
No, no, massively, massively important. I think he grew in the game, more especially as he's been playing abroad in Belgium, and of course in Egypt for Al Ahly, playing in Champions Leagues. That's an experience, the experience that no one can really buy. This game's a game of experience, and the more you play those international matches, your Champions League, your African Football League, that's an experience, So he has shown that he showed that he's one of the important player in South African national team, a player that you know can create opportunities for us, can score goals for us. Um, so yeah, for me, I think he's quite vital that in each and every game he shows the leadership. I think at this point in time, yes, Ronwen is the captain, but uh, Percy, he stands out as well. He stands out as one of the leaders of the team. So he's very vital actually in that Bafana group.
And then sticking like on the point of attack there, uh, I mean, there's really good link up between those front four. I'd call it. It's usually Motiba, Tembazwane, Persitao, starting in those front positions. Lyle Foster was not going to be available, obviously, but I mean, I think the last the last two friendlies, they just seem to be a bit of a lack of fluidity in the front there. Um, how important is it that those guys link up and get us some goals? Because I mean, we haven't really been free scoring lately.
Yeah, no, I mean, I probably tend to disagree that there hasn't been um, you know uh, scoring goals. I think look at the 5 games that we played. There are games that we played without Pesitau.
Mhm.
There are games that we played against Mutibi, or without Mutibi.
Yeah.
Um, there are games that we played against Klongwani, or we played without Klongwani. So I think Hugo Bros, have seen that these players are players that can score goals and make things difficult for the opponent. Shongwani came in and he did well for Bafana. Percy always when he came in, he's always a threat for the opponent. Mutibi, he's been injured. I think for this game against Benin, he will be injured. He will be absent, and Rwanda as well. But he came through, and after being injured for a very long time, so he's coming back now, as he's doing well in France. Um, so I really don't think that there's been lack of goals. I think the only game that they played without really goals, it's the previous game against was it Eswatini?
Yeah.
Um, yes, it was a disappointing game, but those games, as long as for me, I always say, as long as there's no they don't lose games, draw. We can sit here and think that the Swatini, it's a team that we just need to walk in the path in the field and just score goals. But it's not like that. Those games are very, very difficult games as long as we don't lose against such teams. And the fact that for the past five games for me, Bafana haven't lost, it creates that positive mindset to me. That's why I'm saying I'm really, really um hoping, and with the way they've been playing, um, they will go to Cup of Nations and absolutely do well. And it's a must. It's a must that we qualify for this upcoming, World Cup 2026. Of course, with I would say the advantage. That's how I'm going to put it. Back in the years, we used to have four teams that get four spots in the World Cup. Now we have nine teams that can qualify for the World Cup. That for me, I think it's absolutely an advantage for Bafana Bafana. It's a must. It's a must that this time around we absolutely need to qualify.
And I think like it's interesting that you mentioned that. I think we've fallen short and so like barely short at our last few attempts. So do you think as a nation now, South Africans have a realistic expectation on Bafana Bafana to say you guys need to reach the next World Cup?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But I think before we get there, uh, as for me, after a Cup of Nations is vital. They
Yeah.
need to absolutely lay foundation with the cup with this African Cup of Nations. It won't be easy, but that this Cup of Nations will absolutely, set the bar for the national team. But coming back to the World Cup, exactly as I said, the fact that we now have 9 spots of African nations to qualify for the World Cup. We can't we can't we cannot be we cannot qualify for this one. It won't be easy again, but it's there to be, to be taken. It used to be very difficult with four teams, as I said. With 9 teams, it's supposed to happen. In this time around, we have to be in the World Cup 2026.
And I think one of those important things that, like, we, I mean, one of the good things we do is our defending recently, can't if we can't I mean if we don't concede goals we don't lose matches, and just 2 goals conceded in the last 5 internationals. You being a former defender yourself as well, I mean, how critical is that? How critical is the defense, um, and what's the concentration levels that defense has to keep, especially if you're going to play like no disrespect to Benin or Rwanda, but like teams where you are going to be having the ball most of the time and probably be on the front foot most of the time. Um, what's the concentration you have to keep as a defender, and then, I mean, like, just see it out for the 90 minutes.
Look, he has rightly said, the boys have conceded 2 goals in 5 games.
Yeah.
You know, um, back then as a footballer and as a defender, right now as a coach, as a defender, um, you need to feel responsible what once you concede goals. It might not be your fault. Uh, it might be your fault, but the fact that um, you have conceded the goal, you have to absolutely you have to feel horrible. That's how actually when I used to play, I used to feel, and I used to try to demand from my colleagues. You know, um, I used to love defending. I used to enjoy defending. I used to be happy when we won and we considered nothing. You know, now as a coach, you start building your team from defense. You make sure that, and it's exactly what Hugo Bros have done. You make sure that there's synergy among the back four plus the holding midfielders, if you play with holding midfielders, and the goalkeeper. There has to be that chemistry, and that's exactly what Hugo Pros have created in that national team. He makes sure that he plays with the same back four um, for 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 probably those past 5 games.
Mhm. And
Um, we
yes,
we
so,
can see.
and I
Go
think
on,
it's
go on.
also it's also like important now with the way like modern football has gone to include that goalkeeper in your back four as well, right?
No,
Uh,
no,
and
no, no,
Ronman's done so well in that position as well.
No,
You
no,
know.
for sure. That's exactly my point to say. Hugo Bros, what he has done, he made sure that he keeps that back five, I would say, including, um, you know, uh, Ronwen. Remember, in modern football, um, when we say goalkeeper, goalkeeper is part of the in players. Infield players, and that's exactly what Ronwen right now does. He can play. We normally now use goalkeepers to join and play, and that's exactly what Ronwen does at the moment. But the most important thing for me, maybe I can be old-fashioned, but I want the goalkeeper to be a goalkeeper. I want the goalkeeper to make sure that there's clean sheet. Um, Playing from the back, it's important. It depends on the style of play the coach is trying to implement. But for me, the goalkeeper has to make sure that keep the clean sheet. So, like as I said, Hugo Bros made sure that there is a synergy. There is a chemistry among the players who are playing at the back. They understand each other. They know the weaknesses of each other. Communication is there. Can always There's always a room of improvement. But so far, I think I'm happy with it, and they just need to go to African Cup of Nations and get tested.
100%. And one other question I have also is just, like you playing club football throughout the year and you meet for international duty not too often. Um, Keeping a level of consistency for the national team, then how do you do that? Especially if you come back and there's new faces sometimes. Sometimes you might have been linking well with other players who are injured and now not here. How do you just keep that consistency?
Look, yes, once you are an international footballer, you need to be flexible. You need to be able to switch on. You need to be able to switch off. By switching on and by being flexible, you just need to fit in um, at any time. You got to be you got to switch on and be flexible with playing with anyone. Get to understand anyone that you might play with. Remember, we're talking international football. We're talking national team that can play probably once in 3 months. You
Yeah.
know, you need to be flexible to fit in as quick as possible, to switch on as quick as possible from your club to the national team. You need to be able to switch off and on as quick as possible. That's what good footballers do, and that's why um, you become an international footballer. And the other thing is you got to be able to be flexible in playing different positions. In football, injuries, okay, you got to be flexible. You got to adapt. You got to be, as I said, switch on and switch off as quick as possible. So yeah, that for me it's what worked for me. I played in several countries. I played in Germany, I played in Netherlands, in Belgium, and in England. Um, and I had to come to South Africa and represent the country. So I had to make sure that from club level to international football or to the national team, I get to switch on. I'd get to switch off as quick as possible and adapt and try to fit in the coach's philosophy. So that have worked for me. It's a practice. It's something that as individual you need to train yourself, and the more games you play, the better you become.
And then lastly, I mean, you were the last captain to represent us at the World Cup.
Oh
Um,
yes, I forgot about that.
yeah. Uh, I don't know if you don't mind like talking through the feeling of playing in a World Cup, playing at the highest level, and then if you could now walk into the Bafana Bafana dressing room and just give these guys motivation to get there, what would your message be to them?
Look, I think it's quite different. Eyaaz, to personalize it. For me, I think 2010 was absolutely the greatest year of my career.
Yeah,
Yes, traveling from country to country. It's been amazing. Playing in a World Cup in the World Cup in Japan and Korea, 2002. It has been amazing. Playing in the Olympics, it has been amazing. In Sydney Olympics, playing in I think 5 Africa Cup of Nations, if not 4 or 5. It's been amazing, and being the most kept footballer in the history of South African football, it's been amazing. But playing in 2010 World Cup, for me, it has started when I that year I have played in FA Cup final against Chelsea in Wembley. That for me it was a dress rehearsal to the 2010 World Cup at home. But being the captain, playing in your home soil, in front of your supporters, your family, um, that it's an experience that I still today I cannot explain it. But the fact that it was the World Cup, I mean, just recently, there was a serious debate between Messi and Haaland, who has to win the Ballon d'Or.
yeah,
Yes, Haaland has scored goals as he arrived in EPL, the toughest league, uh, but he did so little for his country. He never qualified for the World Cup. He didn't play in the World Cup. But Messi won the World Cup. The World Cup, it's prestige. It's the biggest um, uh, tournament of football in the world.
Yeah.
Everyone, once you are a footballer, you would want to play in the World Cup. So to if I were to get a chance to get in the dressing room and motivate the boys, that's exactly what I would say. I would say you get to be judged out there by playing in the World Cups. You know, you if you want to be the best, you have to rub shoulders with the best,
Yeah.
and you find the best in the World Cup. You know, whether it's World Cup at home or World Cup wherever, but the World Cup is the highest. It's the highest, achievement of football. So um, it's either you want it or you don't. You know,
Yeah.
qualifying for the World Cup, um, I would say it's the greatest. I'm sure the boys in Bafana, some have played in African Football League, some have played in the Champions Leagues. Uh, but when it comes to World Cup, it's different.
Mhm.
It's different. So that's exactly what I would say. I would say you become the best by rubbing shoulders with the best, and you find the best in the World Cup. So that's where actually you want to look forward to play at.
100%. I agree with you, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. Um, I really appreciate the chat, and hopefully one day we can sit down and do a nice profile of Aaron Mokoena himself.
No, it's all good. Anytime you
Yeah,
got my contacts, anytime you wanna contact me, it's okay.